President Trump just gave a massive warning, and the US Iran deals could be falling apart. Plus, UK Prime Minister is probably going to quit today. What does this mean for the markets? Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, money makers. Asian markets are doing real good right now. The Chinese market, the Japanese market, the South Korean markets are all hitting either all time highs or close to highs. And the markets are feeling really bullish right now. What could potentially be a danger here for the markets going forward? We'll talk a little bit about also individual stocks. Now, all I ask from you is that you give me a beautiful smile to send out those good vibes. Smishity smash that like button and let's get into it. Please read the disclaimer. So before we get into the nitty gritty of everything, you need to know that this week we have some interesting data that is coming out. So we'll start off here. You can see on Monday, nothing really, right? But what's going to fuel a lot of where the market, plays out is what's happening around the U.S.-Iran deal. Right now, futures are basically flat. We started out with them high, and then we saw oil popping, but it has pulled back. Futures have pulled back a little bit. And if you can see pre-market, some are green, some are red. SpaceX is down another 3.5% here pre-market. We talked about the possibility of it doing something going up significantly over the first few days and then pulling back. So far, that is what's going on here for SpaceX. And we also have NVIDIA that finished with a very nice pump there towards the weekend. AMD up about 5%. And of course, the stars right now, SanDisk and Micron that continued their massive rallies. And of course, Intel also new all-time highs here for those three. So the chips, the memories continue to be super strong, but things can change. Things can change. So before we get to that and that, let's see what's going to potentially happen this week. So right now, we have, I'm a little bit small. Maybe I'll make myself bigger. Ooh. Right now, we have the June S&P Global PMI data coming out on Tuesday, and then new home sales data on Wednesday. I don't see the first two having too much effect on the markets, but 3 and 4, yes. The PC inflation data coming out on Thursday and the first quarter GDP coming out on Thursday as well. These two have the potential to change how the market is feeling if GDP is a lot smaller than expected or lower than expected. And PCE previously was the number that the Fed liked to look at regarding inflation. It could be tricky because oil has fallen over the past 2 weeks. So these numbers might be a little bit inflated, but they're going to be looking at more. Is it as expected or is it higher and lower than expected? It's probably going to be high, right? But the question is going to be, is it as expected or not expected? What the markets like many times is that things follow an expectation, even if it's bad, right? We know it's bad, but it was on par with the expectations, good, right? But if it's a lot worse than what was expected, the markets will freak out regarding that. Remember, a few weeks ago on Friday, there was a Friday where the job report was a lot better than expected, meaning that the job market was strong, right? The labor market was strong, and the markets freaked out. Stocks dropped significantly. That was because it was much better than expected, which is good but bad for for the Fed decision if they should reduce interest rates. So this is going to be very interesting to see what is going to happen over the next 48 hours, especially when you had President Trump coming out, and we'll get to the prime minister in just a second, coming out and saying, we'll hit Iran much harder than last week if they don't stop their paid proxy for causing trouble in Lebanon. And after that, the talks in Switzerland were halted and the Iranians went out of the room. And that's why we eventually saw oil popping a little bit this morning. But the reports now are coming out that Iran says they made encouraging progress in Switzerland and agreed on a roadmap to reach the final deal in 60 days, according to a joint statement released by Qatar and Pakistan. Key statement points: high-level US-Iran talks concluded in Switzerland. Working groups formed on nuclear issues, sanctions, and dispute resolutions. Direct communication line established to avoid incidents in the Strait of Hormuz. De-confliction cell created to support the Lebanon ceasefire, which never really started, but okay. Technical talks to continue this week in Switzerland, and Iran's foreign minister said mediated talks involving Pakistan and Qatar delivered major progress on Lebanon conflict, including waived oil and petrochemical export restrictions, lifting of the blockade, partial release of frozen assets, and reconstruction plan launched for Iran. He cautioned that the first real test will be operational rollout of the Lebanon de-confliction cell. Right now, this is very delicate. I don't think that it's going to hold. I don't think that you can have agreements happening without the countries that are there, right? Without Israel, without Lebanon, I don't understand what they're going to agree with upon. You're deciding for other countries what they're going to do, right? Now, we all know that Hezbollah is Iran. Everybody knows this. They're funded by Iran. So, okay, what does the Lebanese people want? What does the Lebanese government want? Why are you making deals without the countries and saying, oh, they have to do this? No, they don't. So this is why it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to happen here. I think it's fragile. I think it's going to fall apart. That's my opinion. Again, this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. I don't know what's going to happen with the deal. I am pessimistic on this deal just because I have been covering it for a while. I'm seeing what's happening on the ground. I'm seeing what the Israelis are saying. It's low probability that they're going to agree to withdraw from Lebanon because they just found a massive tunnel about 20 kilometers with full of facilities underground right near the border. After October 7th, they can't let another October 7th happen in the north of Israel. There's no way they're going to pull out, right? So this is a problem. And as long as the Iranians don't care about what's happening on their border, they care about what's happening on another border that has theoretically nothing to do with them, but it's, of course, their proxy. So it's problematic. And you saw that President Trump got really angry because he understands what they're continuing to fire into Israel, and then Israel comes back, and then Iran says, "Oh, we're going to send missiles on Israel," but this is in Lebanon, right? So it's a very complex situation right now, and we'll see what is going to potentially happen, going forward from that. Now, what could also be affecting the markets is the situation in Japan. So recently, the Japanese Fed decided to raise interest rates. Previously, when they have done this, markets have sold off around the world, right? But it seems right now that markets are doing really good. South Korean market is doing really good. By the way, SK Hynix has officially overtaken Samsung to become South Korea's most valuable listed company. In 2002, they were nearly sold to Micron after a debt crisis, but the deal collapsed and it stayed on credit control for years. It just became South Korea's #1 company. So this is just a reminder that things can change very, very fast. And look at SK right now. People weren't looking at Micron and SanDisk the way that they were looking at a year ago. People weren't looking at NVIDIA the way that they look at it right now, 5-10 years ago. So things change in the stock market. Things are dynamic, and that's what's so beautiful, but it's also a risk. A company can be high and then fall off. A company can be low and then suddenly start doing really good. And that's our job to try to figure out what are those going to be and try to give a balance, right? A balance of maybe safer, high risk, dividend, and play that out, right? And so that's very, very important to build a strong and powerful portfolio, okay? Not just, of course, South Korea, Chinese market also rising today, highest since December of 2021, and the Nikkei 225 also hit historic value 72,500 with the AI rally. So even though the Japanese government will probably have to do more interventions after burning 73.4 billion to save the yen, they are now in a situation again after spending that money in May that the yen has erased all the gains and is near back to 162 against the dollar, its weakest level since 1986. Under the IMF rules, Japan can only intervene 2 more times before November or risk losing its freely floating currency status. So this is a tricky situation for Japan. if you remember a few years ago, there was the Japan carry trade sell-off that the market sold off significantly on that time frame. And the markets are now, well, pundits are concerned that we could see something similar. Right now, that hasn't happened yet. It didn't happen when they raised interest rates last week. It's not happening right now, but things are delicate. And if things shift and suddenly oil starts popping and the yields start going up again, this could be problematic and we could see the stock market sell off. So you need to be ready for that possibility. Again, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know how the who's going to say what and what's going to happen with Iran and the US, but it's going to be very interesting. Okay. Instability, not just in the US Iran situation, but also in the UK. We're seeing UK Prime Minister expected to resign today after a very short period of time. I think it's only been like a year and a half. And it seems that following a growing labor revolt and crushing by a by election defeat, so it's not him, but there was elections in the country and his party lost a lot of the seats. And so there's lack of confidence in him. And he's preparing to announce his departure, potentially becoming the seventh UK prime minister in over just a decade, per the Observer and Mail. Markets are already bracing yet another chapter in political and uncertainty in Britain. So the UK markets could be dropping today. And maybe that has effect on the US markets and markets in Europe. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Of course, instability in one of the most powerful and strongest economies in the world is problematic to what's happening in the stock market, the US stock market, and all the stock markets around the world, which are right now doing really good. But again, things can change. Whenever we get too comfortable and we get too excited and we get too FOMO-ish, that's usually when there's probability of pulling back. Okay. So you have to take that into consideration. If we look at what's happening, Palantir continues to be weak, seeing its lowest levels basically since back in February. And will be interesting to see what happens there. Like I said, AMD close to new all-time highs. SoFi stock also finished the week good and is very, very close to a crossover on the 1348 EMA. We'll see what happens with SoFi stock in this next coming week. Of course, Micron and SanDisk are going to be the big ones this week. We'll see what happens with them and how potentially they move up. What is going to be the resistance levels? But we are getting close to that June 24th earnings call for Micron, which could be make it or break it, kind of, because when you have a situation where a stock has gone up so much and there's so much anticipated for a company, if the earnings aren't as amazing as people expected, even if it's a beat, but their CEO says that maybe the next few quarters are going to be not as strong as expected, we could see the stock selling off, even if we do have a good earnings numbers, right? So that is something that we need to take in consideration, that this is happening this week. So always be careful and know that earnings are 50-50. You don't know what's going to happen. It can either pop or it could drop. Even if earnings are good or bad sometimes and it pops, it's a weird thing sometimes, earnings, right? So don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more stock daily updates. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.